Welcome to the channel Life with Jennifer JM, and I am your girl Auntie Jen. My viewers, my friend and my subscriber. What a piece of mess in Jamaica. What a mess. Let me come on the right road, you know. What a mess. And let me last enough people, but anyway. You see? The government will take the man blatantly will come out and talk up on the Prime Minister behalf. Who was referred to. That's the point about it, you know. The same man. The corruption just rotten. Hey, the corruption just messy. Take a listen now to what the People's National Party had to say in the press briefing.
Today we've called this press conference to address a matter of urgent national importance, and we will be having 3 speakers that will be coming to address it today. First up will be the leader of the opposition, the president of the People's National Party. Mr. Mahmoud, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The matter of the Integrity Commission report into the statutory declarations filed by the Prime Minister and their investigation of his affairs in relation to, in particular, the offense of illicit enrichment has been of great national concern to Jamaicans at home and abroad. The Integrity Commission, after their extensive investigation, due to a lack of information forthcoming from the Prime Minister on critical elements of facts that were relevant to the matters that they were investigating, felt it necessary to refer the matter to the Financial Investigations Division and Tax Administration of Jamaica for further investigation on different aspects of what had come out in their investigations. It is therefore of critical importance that the Financial Investigations Division, which has been without a chief technical director for some time since the resignation and departure of Selvin Hay, that it be led by somebody who is competent in the kind of issues that the FID is set up to deal with as an investigative agency, and also be not tainted in any manner with any kind of political cloud over it. Whoever the chief technical director of the FID is, must be somebody who's not perceived as having any particular political affiliation or bias. And we feel strongly that the appointment of Dennis Chung is itself an act which will further corruption in the country, because he is somebody who has already publicly stated positions in relation to the matters that the FID ought to be investigating, which are strongly in favor of the Prime Minister and which seek to undermine or belittle the impact and importance of the findings that the Integrity Commission has made on the matters that they investigated as set out in the report they sent to Parliament. He has commented on the 28 bank accounts operated by the Prime Minister and his companies, on the volume of funds that have flowed through those accounts over the period of the investigation in excess of $470 million. On the issue to do with the Positive Jamaica, a non-profit foundation that receives monies for worthy causes donated from local and overseas contributors. Those funds being used to purchase financial investments in the name of and for the benefit of Mr. Holness's personal companies. On each of these matters, he publicly sought to take a position that's led to the impression that there was nothing amiss, there's no case to answer, everything is above board. Even the nil returns filed by companies that had bank accounts with hundreds of millions of dollars passing through them, he said there was nothing peculiar about that. Nil tax returns. He clearly is a biased person on this matter. He clearly would have a conflict leading the FID to investigate this matter. And that is why we're saying he should resign that position if he's accepted it, or the appointment should be rescinded and revoked forthwith. It is too vital to Jamaica's democracy and the rule of law in our country that what will be the most important and significant investigation by the FID in its history should not be led by somebody who has taken a position on key issues that are the substance of that investigation, positions which are in favor of the Prime Minister, as opposed to positions which the FID ought to be investigating in a non-biased, non-partisan way, based on what the findings of the Integrity Commission were already on those matters. And that is why we thought it necessary to call this press conference today to state for the record that we are totally opposed to this appointment, that we feel that this appointment is itself a corrupt act because it's furthering what we believe is going to be an attempted cover-up of this matter, and that we are calling upon Jamaica to ensure that this does not go any further. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to my colleagues who will go into different aspects of this in greater detail. And so I'm going to ask Julian Robinson to speak next.
Good afternoon. Jamaica has, over the many years, developed a strong reputation of having institutional integrity in terms of our anti-corruption framework. From the Integrity Commission to other institutions that have the responsibility for investigating financial crimes, both in the public and the private sector. If we look at the history of individuals who have been charged to lead, certainly the FID, you'll see persons who have extensive backgrounds in either law enforcement, financial crimes, anti-money laundering, etc. This is the first time that an individual, while having general accounting and management experience, would be leading the FID without specific investigative experience. And the position is Chief Technical Director. And people might say, yes, there are persons within the organization who may have the technical expertise, but this position requires someone who has that specific expertise. And it is important for us to maintain the credibility of the country's the investigation of financial crimes. Putting Dennis Chung there, I believe, threatens that credibility which is not just local, but credibility which is international, because the FID is the main interface with other international organizations who cooperate with the country in investigating financial crimes. And so we see the appointment as a retrograde step, actually, and it has implications for how Jamaica would be perceived within the international community in relation to this particular matter. And so, as the opposition leader has said, the appointment should be rescinded. Mr. Chung should not accept it, because at best, the perception of bias is there, and the reality in this case, having already pronounced on a number of these issues, it is almost impossible for that reality of bias not to be seen there. And if the outcome of this investigation, which as the leader said is the most important that FID will ever undertake, absolves the Prime Minister of any wrongdoing, then it will just play into the hands of everybody who said, you sent that person there for that particular outcome. So from our perspective as a party, beyond the individual, we see this as a threat to the institutional arrangements for the investigation of financial crimes. And it should be rescinded, and an individual who is appropriately qualified with the experience and who has no taint of political bias should be appointed to head the FID. I'll invite my colleague, Mr. Bunting, to speak further.
Thank you, Julian. Good afternoon, everyone. When I heard of this announcement yesterday afternoon, I reached out to an authority on financial crime and asked them to state the ideal qualifications and experience for the exec, and I just used it generically. This is someone who is not in Jamaica. I said, give me the ideal qualifications and experience for the executive head of a financial investigative unit that is a member of the Egmont Group. The response was that a candidate should reflect the strategic, legal, analytical, and diplomatic demands of leading a high-integrity institution charged with combating money laundering, terrorist financing, and other financial crimes. The candidate should meet international expectations for independence, competence, and credibility. With respect to academic and professional qualifications, a master's degree in law, finance, economics, criminology, accounting, public administration, or related fields was the minimum academic requirement. They then went on to say they would need specialized training in anti-money laundering or counter-terrorist financing certifications, training in forensic accounting, cybercrime, financial intelligence, or asset recovery. With regard to relevant experience, they said they should have at least 10 years experience in financial crime investigation, compliance, or intelligence gathering, with 5+ years in senior management or executive roles. Proven leadership of multidisciplinary and cross-border teams, overseeing complex case analysis, data management systems, and interagency coordination. In terms of financial crime investigation and analysis, they should have direct experience in conducting or supervising investigations into A, money laundering and related predicate offenses, B, terrorist financing, C, asset tracing and forfeiture, and D, knowledge of typologies, red flags, and financial flows relevant to organized crime, cyber-enabled crime, and corruption. In terms of legal and regulatory knowledge, familiarity with the FATF recommendations, Egmont Group standards, and domestic AML and CFT legal frameworks, and experience working with or within law enforcement, regulatory authorities, prosecutors, or financial supervisors. And then in terms of the international cooperation, they spoke to a track record of engagement with international counterparts, including FIUs, law enforcement, FATF-style regional bodies such as CFATF and the Egmont Group, and the ability to negotiate memoranda of understanding and lead international case collaboration. In terms of essential competencies, they highlighted the integrity and independence needed for the role, unimpeachable ethics, and capacity to lead an institution free from political interference, deep understanding of the secure handling of sensitive data, technological awareness, familiarity with financial intelligence systems, data analytics, and secure information exchange platforms, and so on. And then in terms of desirable attributes, not essential, but their prior role as a deputy director, a director of compliance, or a chief analyst within a national financial investigative unit. So in summary, what we see is that the executive head of an FIU in the Egmont Group must combine deep technical expertise in financial crime with leadership, discretion, and an international outlook. They serve not just as an investigator in chief, but as a guardian of financial transparency and impartiality, and a partner to global financial intelligence bodies. And I invite you to look at previous chief technical directors, persons like Selvin Hay, Justin Felice, Calvin Small, all very senior detectives with distinguished careers in criminal investigations and intelligence gathering, and specifically anti-corruption and financial crimes. Or alternatively, look at Robin Sykes, former senior counsel at DOJ, point person in interacting with the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, and someone with specialized expertise in anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing, and as well as financial regulation. Ladies and gentlemen, by comparison, Dennis Chung is a weak and unsuitable candidate for this post. And when you look at the January 2025 ad for this post, you will be surprised to see that it looks like a generic management or administrative post, rather than for someone who is a chief technical director in a financial investigative unit. Thank you.
I hope that they forget that there's a short person in the room, and that's fine. So Dennis Chung was the General Secretary for the Jamaica Football Federation, and he has now left to be appointed as the chief person at the Financial Investigation Department. Now, I just want to ask you a simple question. In his capacity, acting in football, would he have agreed with a referee who has expressed a bias for a club sharing a game in which that club is playing? The answer is clearly no. And that is what we are seeing now, where Dennis Chung has made public pronouncements in support of the Prime Minister in his investigation. Even when you are sitting on a case as a judge, if you find that you have connections with the persons before you about whom you have to adjudicate, you are required to recuse yourself. And we are simply saying to Mr. Dennis Chung today, if you had not thought about it before, you need to think about it. You should refuse this appointment. This investigation into the Prime Minister, the allegation of illicit enrichment, is indeed the most consequential matter which has happened to us since independence. Never before in the history of Jamaica have we had a prime minister under investigation for corruption. And today I simply want to say this. Where are the honorable men and women in our country? Where are those men and women on whom this country has conferred national honors? Where are the professionals? Where's the private sector? Where are the church leaders? Because this will appear to you as though it is a narrow partisan political matter. It is not. It is about reaching for the very soul of our democracy. It is about the protection of our democratic institutions. Because when you corrupt an institution such as this, which as Julian and Peter have made clear, have an international reputation, when you do that, you're failing the nation and you are setting the tone for actions which undermine the institutions which must uphold our traditions and which must reflect who we are.
Ladies and gentlemen, a few years ago, this issue surrounding the reports on the Integrity Commission came to public attention. And initially, we were told that persons are unaware of the individuals who are under investigation. At a press conference that was held at Jamaica House, when a journalist put the question to the Prime Minister as to whether or not he is aware as to why he has not been certified, he said he had no idea why, and he was anxious to be certified. When we eventually saw the report of the investigation into his affairs, we realized that at the time when he made that statement, it was not true, because prior to that, he was written to, and that they had a meeting with him at OPM and his lawyers, and explained to him that there is a possibility that he has assets that are out of keeping with his lawful income, what we term illicit enrichment. We saw where the Prime Minister took the matter to court, and he was asking, he was trying to mandate the courts to sign off on his report. We saw where Mr. Chung came out and gave his opinion on the matter. It's free to have an opinion on the matter, but by any means, by the acceptable standard as to what the average person would think, an individual that has already come to a conclusion on the matter, to be now placed in charge of the body to investigate the matter, is highly inappropriate. And anyone who cannot see that as inappropriate, then that begs a lot of questions. The gentleman in question also created a firestorm in Jamaica a few months ago when he said that Usain Bolt money did not get to SSL. And it is the same FIB that needs to look into the issues surrounding SSL. I, as a Jamaican and a well-thinking Jamaican, I am very concerned about the path that we are on as a country. I am a proud Jamaican, but I am ashamed of my government. I am ashamed of this JLP government because they are eroding what we have come to accept as Jamaica. They are destroying the institutions that give us a good, credible reputation internationally. Corruption is rampant. It is almost palpable in the society, and we will not accept it. The time has come. Enough is enough. The people of Jamaica need to be given an opportunity to decide if they want to continue with this level of corruption in high places, or if they want to return decency to Jamaica House. And as of such, we are giving this government 72 hours to rescind this appointment. And if they do not rescind it, there will be actions all over Jamaica. Thank you. The floor is open for your questions. I'm not going to tell you the action, so you can go to the previous slide. Next slide.
So you hear what the PNP is saying on it, and I agree with the PNP. But you know one thing I have to say in this? It goes to prove and to show guilt and cover up and for hide things. Leave on a view, leave on a comments, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Life with Jennifer. Tell me one thing. Is the PNP right or Brogard right?